Hi, Jeremy Crow here. This week's video, I wanted to go over some of these superpowers, you could call them, of the human organism. Actually, they're not superpowers at all. They are just simply lost or forgotten or underutilized functions of the human organism, of our bodies and minds. And one thing in common with these is that generally most of these abilities are things that we are have been able to avoid activating or exercising. They've begun to atrophy within our bodies, and it's going to take some time for us to get them working again. And the reason that they've atrophied is because a lot of these functions are survival mechanisms that have allowed us to endure through very difficult situations and conditions. So, for example, the ability to enter fat burning mode or ketosis, where if you don't have access to carbohydrates, whether that be from not eating carbohydrates or not eating anything at all, like fasting, or eating a ketogenic diet where there's very, very low carb. If you starve the body of carbohydrates, your body will switch over to using fats. Fats and fatty acids get converted in the liver to ketone bodies, which is an alternative fuel source compared to glucose in the body. Glucose and the stored form of that, which would be glycogen, that's stored in the muscles and tissues of the body. And when you utilize your body, when you move your muscles, the first thing, it goes for the easy energy, and that's glycogen, the stored sugars, essentially, the stored carbs in our body. And once that's utilized, once that's all depleted, your body has to start taking that fuel from somewhere else. And it's going to take it from your fat stores. It's going to start breaking down your fat stores and running your body off of ketone bodies. And there are some amazing benefits of that, actually. Your brain can survive longer without oxygen if there are ketones present. So that's pretty cool. That's kind of a superpower in itself. Being able to even just simply go days without eating and not really feel that much of a detriment. If you're an elite performance, sports, athlete, then you're going to notice a difference, but in terms of if you are, say, a businessman and you have to skip your lunch and dinner, it's not going to bother you if you've gotten your body to the point where it can easily shift into that mode. Because, like I said, most people that are watching this video are in developed countries where you're going to have access to enough food where you don't have to go into that fat burning mode barely ever. Your body isn't used to doing it. Your body's used to running off of glucose like all of the time. And when you don't have the glucose, your body doesn't immediately shift into fat burning mode. It's just being like, oh, hey, give me some glucose. Put some glucose into me. You get I think the hormone is called ghrelin, where it causes that intense hunger, cravings of that you want. Tells you, get food into me. It tells you, emergency, get that food into me. And it's trying to get you to eat carbs so that you have that quick boost of easily accessible energy, really easily accessible energy. And the fat isn't easily accessible to it because it's such an atrophied function of the body to get into fat burning mode. So there are huge benefits, not just in terms of body composition, but in terms of things such as survival in a state of hypoxia, for a longer period of time. If you are what they call fat adapted or ketone adapted or, fat burning mode capable, so in other words, what you can do is you can go do intermittent fasting, and that could be a daily thing where you fast for 16 hours a day, and then the rest of the 24 hours, the rest of the 24-hour period, you're eating during that 8-hour block. And for the other 16 hours, you are fasting, with water, or, 0-calorie beverages like water with an electrolyte powder, a 0-calorie electrolyte powder mixed in, or with a little bit of the super greens mixed in or something like that. Or coffee that doesn't have, like black coffee, like that doesn't have cream or sugar, that has calories in it. If it's not going to be a huge deal if you have, like, say, a cream or 2 cream in your coffee. It's technically not fasting because there's calories there, but it's not gonna be a huge deal. Some people need that little bit of calories to kind of get them through that breakfast, say. So some people, instead of eating a meal, they'll drink a coffee that has 2 cream in it, or they'll have a tablespoon of unsalted butter or coconut oil blended in, and that, that'll help them get through because it does give them energy. But you're not fasting, but it is still ketogenic because there's no carbohydrates. Dairy has very, very tiny amounts of carbohydrates in like 2 tablespoons of cream. It's going to be so negligible. You could probably consider that ketogenic anyways, as long as you don't have the sugar in there. And now some artificial sweeteners, some of them do actually, even though they don't have sugar, the sweetness, that flavor itself will actually trigger an insulin response in the body. And if you have a strong insulin response present, your body can't be in fat burning mode. A high level of insulin present in the body means that you're in fat storage mode. And basically your body's taking that glucose that's too high and bringing down that blood sugar level to a normal level so that you don't die. But what it's doing is it's taking that and that extra energy and storing it in the form of fat in your body. So if you have that high level of insulin in your body at all times, because say you're eating several meals a day, then you're going to have a really hard time getting into that fat burning mode, because it's just how it works. You can't be in fat burning mode and fat storage mode at the same time. So what you can do is you can do this 16-hour fast, 8-hour block of time that you're eating. Some people push it even more. They'll do like 18-6, or some people even do a 20-4, or some people they'll just eat one large meal a day, and that's it, and so what you're doing is you're allowing your body to get into that ketosis state regularly. Another way some people will do this is that twice a month, like say every other week, they'll fast the entire day. So these are things that you can do to allow your body to get adapted to be able to easily move into that ketosis state. And so you're developing, you're practicing and cultivating a certain level of biological adaptability of your own body, metabolic adaptability, and just adaptability in general, because you're controlling not only, your metabolic rate, you're not only controlling the types of fuel that your body is going to go for and utilize, and how efficiently it's able to access those food stores or those energy stores, but you're also impacting like the ghrelin, the hunger hormone. So your body adapts and changes so that it's not releasing ghrelin in anticipation of a meal that it knows you're not about to eat anymore, because you don't have that habitual breakfast, lunch, dinner thing anymore. You may get that hunger before your habitual evening meal. Say if you have an evening meal, like say you have one meal a day, and say you have it at say 7 o'clock at night, your body will start to develop that hunger anticipation, but not at other times of the day when you never eat anymore, only in anticipation for that giant meal that you're going to have. Now people, like I said, some people will just they'll eat their regular 3 meals a day, without snacking in the middle, if they can help it, or depending on their performance requirements, if they have high performance demands on their body, they may need to have, more. But then they'll have their days, the couple days in the month, like say one day every other week, or some people just do it once a month, and I'm not sure like what the minimum effective dosage is of this yet, but they say that even if you just fast for 24 hours, one day a month, that in itself is going to have you're going to start to develop that biological adaptability, that ability to enter into ketosis. So I'm just talking about one of these superpowers, it has a lot of different benefits too, where you're not going to get irritable when you fast or when you don't have food, because your body is able to access energy stores. Your body hormone levels change when you're doing fasting, and a lot of people will say that certain types of focused mental activity is enhanced. Now other types sometimes is reduced. So for certain functions that you're going to be performing, then being in ketosis can actually benefit that type of focus. And yeah, like I was saying, you can survive longer without oxygen if there are ketones present in the blood. So that's just one of them. Another one that you can do to learn how to essentially train your body to be more adaptable biologically is you can do cold exposure. So now there's this guy, Hof. His name is Hof, H-O-F, I think his last name is. Wim Hof, W-I-M is his first name, Wim. And then Hof is his last name. And he came up with this. Well, at first he didn't have a method. He just was basically this guy who could do some crazy things. People call him the Iceman, because he can endure extreme cold for much longer than anybody ever thought was possible. And it's opened up people's minds. It's kind of like the first person to ever run a 4-minute mile. Before that point, the scientists were saying that it's biologically impossible for any human to run a mile in 4 minutes or less. But it's been done. And once it was done by somebody, they opened up the mind of humanity to the possibilities of doing it. And now lots of people do it, So now the other thing too is this Wim Hof guy. He developed the Wim Hof method. And he has these methods, and I think what he's doing is he's created 2 different forms of metabolic or biological adaptability that you can train, and when they're combined, you can do some amazing things that you never really thought you would have been able to do. So he does this breathing where you will essentially hyperventilate yourself. So you'll take in deep breaths, you go, and you just allow it to come out. You don't have to like push it out. And actually you're supposed to have this almost like a feeling like you're not quite fully exhaling all of it, but you're always breathing in fully, deeply, all the way to the bottom of your lungs, and then you just kind of let it out. And he says to do that like basically like 30 times, and your body's going to start like, you're going to start feeling tingling sensations and things like that from the hyperventilation. And then you hold your breath with no air in your lung. It doesn't have to be completely evacuated, but basically after the exhale, you hold your breath after those 30 breaths, and then you can just hold your breath for a long time, much longer than normal. So, I mean, I've tried it, and I tried this method with the breathing exercises that I learned from other sources before I heard about this Wim Hof guy doing it. And yeah, you can hold your breath for more than 2 minutes. You can definitely hold your breath for more than a minute. Anybody could, if they were to hyperventilate themselves in the manner that I just described, until the point where maybe your fingers are starting to feel a little tingly or something like that. And then hold your breath. You're definitely going to hold your breath for longer than a minute. Maybe 2. And then what he does is he'll say, do 3 rounds of that. I have no idea if that's damaging to you or not, because basically what's happening is you're getting rid of a ton of carbon dioxide from your system. Possibly, and he believes that you're packing your body full of oxygen, all the cells in your body full of oxygen. I've heard scientists say that you're actually depleting your brain of oxygen when you're doing that, but I don't know the science behind it, but it produces effects. It produces actual repeatable effects and benefits. So he'll do that, and then just simply the whole gradual exposure to extreme cold. And what he likes to do is very cold water. There's this cryotherapy you can do where you kind of go into a room it's just dry and it's just a really cold room, or a kind of like a little booth that you sit in up to your neck or whatever. And I think that method uses like dry ice or something like that. But basically, or liquid nitrogen or something like that. But it gets it down to like minus 200 degrees below zero or something crazy like that, and you go in there for like 2 minutes or something. But that's a different thing, slightly. It's a type of cold exposure, but what this Wim Hof guy does is he says do it with water. It gets into you, like it affects you a lot more. It's more like visceral, hard-hitting kind of. You go into ice cold water, like say you fill up a bathtub with water, cold water, and then you put a bunch of ice and you submerge yourself up to the neck in there. The very first, you're going to have an immediate reaction where you're going to, and you're going to tense up. He says you got to try and relax into it. Don't jump right to the tub of ice water. Start with cold showers. Just, get it as cold as you can. Eventually you want to get it to the point where it's just full cold, and you're in there and you're just like, your breathing is going to be affected for sure. So, your breathing is affected and you're going to find it hard to breathe, but you got to try and relax. Allow your body to just kind of relax, and actually it'll start flooding with it, adrenaline and similar compounds, similar endogenous compounds within your system, and you'll actually warm up. and your skin will feel cold to the touch, but you'll feel warm inside, and things like that. So there's methods you can do, and over time you can expose yourself to more. He has a record. He has a record for being able to swim under ocean ice, and salt water that's frozen, that's really cold. That's below 0 Celsius for sure, because of the chemistry of it. Anyways, he has a record for swimming under the water for longer than anyone else has, that's been recorded and verified. Yeah, he's got some crazy stories, this Wim Hof guy, the Iceman, people call him. But yeah, he teaches how to do it. He'll tell you you can sit, out in the winter just wearing a pair of shorts, or if you're a woman, shorts and a sports bra, or if you're in Ontario, Canada, you don't have to wear a bra. Because it's legal here for women to go topless. Not sure if you were aware of that or not, but anyways, so these are certain things, these superpowers almost, that you can unlock, these latent powers in the body that you can reclaim, you can exercise them. Another one is getting into a state of flow, or a flow state, or a peak state, or a peak experience, people call it, or in the zone. So that is a type of a state of mind, a state of body, and that you can get into where actually a certain part of your brain kind of shuts off, but you get this immediate sensation of, you get connection with it's kind of like that religious ecstasy. It's almost like a form of religious ecstasy that people get into, where they feel oneness with everything or whatever, but they're doing it in a very active physical way. When a lot of times when people are doing not extreme sports, they don't really call it that anymore, but like adventure sports, where they're doing things like the wingsuit, where they'll jump off of a cliff and then they're just in a wingsuit and they're gliding, that requires an extreme level of mental focus, and they get into that mode where they're just basically, now what do I do? No, they're just acting, and every movement is like perfect, basically. And this flow state, most people have experienced it a few times in their life, but there are things you can do to make that happen more often, more likely. You can change your lifestyle in such a way that you cultivate this flow state in your life, where you're going to be like, okay, today I'm going to encourage the flow state, and there's things you can do. There are actual biological states in the body that correspond to the different stages of flow. You can encourage the release of certain chemicals within your body if you know how to do it. So, one of the things I figured out is there's this sequence of things you can do. And it involves certain types of exercises, certain types of things you're consuming, and certain types of activities that you can do in a certain sequence. And in a part of that sequence, you do your thing that you want to do in flow, and you're a lot more likely to enter into that flow state if you do that sequence, if you have that kind of sequence leading up to it. And you can enhance the experience by having certain things that you do after as well that correspond with the state that you're in after. So, I came up with a very unconventional ritual that involves things like going on a walk, and when you come back, you have to eat a certain thing, and you know what I mean? And I'll share that with you guys. You know, it's 25-minute video so far, so I'm not going to get into it now. But yeah, there are these various different functions of the body. Lucid dreaming could be considered one of these things, you know, where you get your mind, a certain state of mind, certain brainwave states, you know, during certain stages of you know, functions that your body does. And you can get yourself, you can do things to get yourself to enter into those states that the body is capable of doing, but just doesn't do normally because we don't trigger them, you know? And so we have all of these superpowers that we can activate within ourselves, reclaim these things that we've allowed to atrophy just because we have the technology to avoid discomfort. So yeah, what we have to do is embrace discomfort. You know, that's very Nietzsche would approve, you know. He thinks that you should strive for discomfort because that's the thing that's going to really make you grow and feel fulfilled in your life. You know, life is suffering, and if you embrace that, you'll have so much life, and you'll have so much ability to enjoy life or to extract joy out of life because you're enduring this suffering voluntarily. It's really interesting how that works, and there's a spiritual component to that as well. You know, the whole fasting, you know, there are a lot of spiritual traditions that include that. It's just a whole world has opened up to us because some of these things have been studied, and we know what's happening in the body when we're experiencing these various different states, and we can do things to encourage them to happen. And yeah, so why not become a superhuman? You know, not one of these unactivated humans. You know, activate your superpowers and become extraordinary. You know, show other people that these things can be done. And once other people see them, they'll be inspired and motivated to do them themselves. And humanity, you can lift humanity up like this, you know, and especially within our community, you know. We want our loved ones and the people that we care about to be extraordinary individuals and to be very highly capable individuals, you know. That would be amazing, you know. So let's study these things, practice them, you know. Don't be afraid of discomfort. Don't be afraid of pain, you know. Don't be afraid of feeling cold or feeling hungry. It's not an emergency. You're not gonna die. You can live, you know, I think you can go like a month without food or something like that. You can't go that long without water, but you can go a long time without food, depending on your food stores in your body, your fat content that you currently have, of course, but and other conditions, how active you are, etc. I don't have to go into this. Activate your superpowers. Do it. And tell me about it. Tell me about it. If you have any of these other superpowers you know about that I didn't mention, mention it in the comments here. I want to learn how to do these things too. You know, some of them I've already started to try, and it's amazing. So, you know, let's do this together. Let's become superhuman. You know, let's get the human race back into its fully functional state, and not this dormant, atrophied thing. If we do this atrophied thing too long, we're going to lose it. Our genetics will change. We're not going to be adapting. We're not going to be selecting for people who can do these extraordinary things because we're not, it doesn't matter. You know, we've got these, we want to keep these functions in the human species, you know. It's incredible. So let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's help one another out in activating these. Get us through the rough points. I'm going to do another video on, I basically just completed a month of ketogenic eating and intermittent fasting, daily intermittent fasting. And I learned a bunch of things on how to do it, how to get through some of the rough points. So I'll share that with you guys as well. Let's do this and share information, activate those superpowers.